here at Polar Park with Roman Anthony, now the #1 overall prospect in minor league baseball. How's that title sit on you? You change your social media bio or anything?
No, not at all. No, it's great to be recognized, but I think I mentioned it yesterday and in some interviews. It's not the end all be all. Obviously, a nice little achievement along the way. But yeah, I mean, it's nice. It's nice to be recognized for the work I've put in. But I think the end goal remains the same, and this doesn't really affect it. So it's good for the time being.
Yeah, well, that's the thing I'm interested in, right? Like, what does it mean? Is it? And I think that you just pointed out. Like, I think to me, it's always a reflection of the work that's gone into it, right? It's not like it means that as a second round draft pick, obviously someone who signed for a good sized bonus, but nonetheless, second round pick. You've put yourself in a position that's different in the industry than where you were, and that's a reflection of, if you were to define the work that allowed you to become this, that allowed your career to follow this arc, what's been the most important thing?
I think I've just been surrounded. I've been lucky enough to be surrounded by great people. This org, there's a lot of great people that I've run into, a lot of amazing teammates that I've had, and but even outside of that, just back home and in the offseason, the people that I surround myself with, I think the work that I put in, off the field, I've just surrounded myself with great people, and credit to the Red Sox and the org. They've done a great job with everything on the developmental side. So I think I've just been lucky with the people around me, but I've also worked my tail off each and every step of the way.
So you're good friends with Jackson Holliday. He was the #1 overall pick in the same draft that you came out in. He was the #1 overall prospect entering last year. Different paths to that point, right? Like, really cool that the two of you who are so close get to share that that rare distinction.
Yeah.
Did you but when he was drafted #1 overall, he's supposed to emerge as the best prospect in baseball. Did you feel like, have you had a point along the way in your professional career where you've been able to change your kind of self-perception and say, like, I can hang with anyone in any context?
Yeah, honestly, I think for me, I've always been pretty humble but very confident at the same time. And I think going into the draft, I wasn't really worried about where I went. I just, wanted to put myself in a good organization and give myself a good chance to be set up in the long run. But I think I always knew deep down that I am that caliber of player, and everyone takes different routes. Obviously, like you mentioned, Jackson going first overall, credit to him, right? It can be even more difficult sometimes to be in that situation when you're supposed to do that, and for him to be able to just go in there and kill it the whole way and succeed and just continue to succeed, and now make an impact at the highest level. Credit to him, right? That's the ultimate goal. But I think, like I just mentioned, going into it, knowing that I can always be that caliber of player, and that there's a lot of great players out there, but I've played it with and against a lot of guys now in the last 2 years, and just knowing every day that I go out there that no matter who it is or how much big league time whoever I'm facing has, that I belong there and that I can hang. And like I mentioned, credit to the Red Sox for putting me in the big league spring training games and putting me in competitive environments, and promoting me last year to a few different levels, and testing me and seeing what I'm made of. I obviously wouldn't be here without the great people that we have up top, who do such a good job on the developmental side of things. But I think it's just a little bit of everything. But like I said, knowing that I am that caliber of player, and not being cocky about it, but just knowing that deep down within my work and within the way I go about playing the game every day.
Gunnar Henderson also was a number one prospect. He's also in the same clubhouse as Jackson, so I got to check in with both of them yesterday while the Orioles were at Fenway Park. And Gunnar Henderson said, "It's really cool." And then it happens, and then you're like, okay, now it's not important because it's all about whatever kind of big leaguer I'm going to be, and kind of the thing that drives him is being the best player on the field every day in the big leagues. Yeah. How much do you think about that part, about like how you define what success is?
Yeah, I think it can be skewed sometimes because there's a lot of rankings, and there's something coming out by someone new every day who has something different to say, right? And I think the main thing is that like he had just mentioned, it doesn't really matter once you get to these levels and the highest level. Yeah, it's nice to go in there knowing that you're the number one prospect, but I think, nobody really cares.
Yeah.
And once you get up there, and even here, like you have that target on your back, but it doesn't change the way you go about your work every day. You continue to do what's gotten you here, and you continue to work your tail off every single day in order to maintain that. And then, like I said, whenever the time comes that I'm at the highest level, that doesn't matter anymore and vanishes after a few at bats anyway. Right. So the main
Jackson
goal
is
is
also experienced, right?
Yeah.
And he talked about that, like the idea that he was a 20-year-old in the big leagues making the opening day roster, and he wasn't quote unquote supposed to go 2 for 34, but the reality is that that everyone prospect status doesn't guarantee what a transition to the highest level of baseball looks like.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I've seen it even with guys who are drafted and even guys who get a lot of money out of the draft or different things, that there's so many expectations on guys. And in the end of the day, a lot, of things don't pan out. And I think, the main thing is that you got to just continue to stick with what's gotten you there and continue to work harder and harder every single day. Because even when you are the number one prospect, there's still a lot that I can improve on and still a lot that I need to do and that I can do in order to help the team at the top win.
You've been very stubborn every time I've asked you about what you want to improve in saying everything, right? Which I think speaks to the development mindset that you have, and part of the reason why you're really, why you end up here is because you care a lot about improving every aspect of your game. So let's set that question aside, because I already I think know the answer, but I do want to offer praise in that you are very attuned to not only getting better generally across the tools, but in very specific ways, whether that's the kind of jumps that you get, the kind of routes that you get, or the specific game situations, game awareness based on outs, based on count, etc. So that's all. So that's a long-winded compliment to you.
Yeah.
But maybe you can more comfortably tell me this: is there one thing that you're doing right now that 2 years ago, if I had asked you, 2 years ago when you were drafted, 2 years and change, you're drafted as a 17-year-old, are you surprised by anything that you have done now, even accepting that you do have a lot of confidence?
Yeah, I think no matter how much confidence I've had, I don't know if you would ask me when I was drafted 2 years ago if I would be here right now or expected to be here right now, because I probably would have told you the same thing I tell everyone going into every year, is that I don't set any expectations on myself. I don't say I have to be here at a certain time or I have to be in the big leagues at this time, because to me that just puts more added pressure. And I think my goal is to just come in every day and learn as much as I can, especially at this level now, being with so many guys who have so much big league experience or who have a lot of years under their belt, a lot more than myself. Just kind of being a sponge to all the information. But, you mentioned, I think just continuing to work on the little things. I think going out there every day and being a really good base runner and being flexible in all three outfield spots. Last year, I played mainly center field. And now as I've gotten closer, just realizing how important it is to be flexible in each of those different outfield positions. And just testing my limits, testing my range, and using the minor leagues as a spot to, the goal here is to help this team win, but at the same time to test my limits and see what I'm great at and see what needs work. So it's really just dialing in and finishing up with the little things here. And I think, like I mentioned, being good with my leads, being really good and dialing in the secondaries and being really good with my pre-pitch in the outfield and applying pressure on the defense when I'm getting out of the box, regardless of how hard I hit the ball. So it's
Liam Hendricks, by the way, that was the thing that caught his attention. He was he is putting pressure on the defense every time he's making contact. So there have been a lot of screaming, the huge exit velos, certainly get a lot of attention. But he was that was what really stood out to him. Is this is not a kind of flip it on and off type of approach. Yeah,
and I think you look at the guys at the top, right? You look at Jarren Duran and all these guys that make such an impact, and even on other teams, you look at the guys who make the most impact in these 5-tool players, and look at Jarren, he hits a ground ball into the outfield and he's stretching it into a double more times than not. So
as you did in your first at bat in Worcester.
Yeah, and I think that when you do it at the top, it kind of sets the tone, down in the lower levels, and credit to Epi. I've said it before. He did a great job at
Yep.
making sure that, no matter what, how we were feeling, we were given 100% of what we had that day, and making sure that we get out of the box and play the game the right way. Because it's the little things like that that help teams, win games. And I can't speak for the big league level. I've never been there, but I saw it even at AA and even here. When you do things and you play the game the right way, it kind of rewards you back. And, I think a lot of the teams that have success in the big leagues, there's a common denominator. It's a lot of guys who are, willing to stretch that single into a double and are always constantly looking for that extra 90 and, are just never complacent. And that's the kind of mindset we have here and that they've built into us in the minor leagues here.
So you've had a lot of success in AAA. Was there a kind of eye-opening moment in AAA and the other way where, like, maybe it was an experienced big leaguer, like with a sequence that you were like, whoa, anything along those lines that where you recognized, okay, like different level?
Yeah, I think the first week I was here, obviously hit the ground running with a few hits in my first game, and but quickly found out that shortly after that these guys don't miss as much, I think, as they do in AA. And yeah, it's the same game, and I'm still going out there and playing a kid's game. But I think what I learned is that it's just a little cleaner here, and that guys have more big league time and don't miss their spots as much, but they still miss.
Yeah.
So I think just knowing that, but just struggling a little bit in that first week. I think it kind of helped me, just settle in and realize, okay, I'm going to have to be really good and really dialed in on every single pitch, every single play. Not that you don't always have to do that, but here more than ever, like I said, guys don't miss as much. But at the same time, never giving anyone too much credit and just knowing that, I belong here and that I'm here to make an impact and help this team win.
So I guess I'll wrap up on this point. Your buddy Jackson was in the big leagues this year as a 20-year-old on opening day. There are a lot of guys who end up being #1 overall prospect who end up in the big leagues, by opening day of the following year. How much do you think about? You said you're not goal-oriented. Nonetheless, the whole point is to compete in the big leagues.
Yeah.
How much do you think about, do you think about taking those kind of finishing touches to make yourself available? How ready do you feel if you were to get a call this September, or or coming out of spring training next year, if they say it's your time?
Yeah, I have 100% confidence that I'll be ready for whatever they tell me. And with that being said, I'm going to take what I've gathered here in the month playing here with the last week or so we have left coming up. Continue to just, be all gas and going into the off season. I'm going to give myself the best chance I can, and I'll be ready coming into spring training to, if things happen, things may happen. But I'll be ready, and I'm going to give myself the best chance that I can, and I'll be ready.
Roman Anthony in Polar Park, thanks so much for joining.
Thank you. Appreciate it.